Morning, Miss Gail.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, you're at the office, girl.
I am at the office. It's a sinus thing. It's,
Jeez. Oh,
it's all good. It's all good.
all right. Well, that's good.
How are you doing? Do you have a car yet?
No, but I guess I'm off my white one and I may be getting a red one because I'm getting heat to give the car back and I can't be without a car.
Oh,
So
jeez.
what am I going to do? I got to do something. So
Are they getting anything in Marlton? Good
no.
morning, Laura.
Good morning, Laura.
Lady.
Hello.
Nothing in Marlton, huh?
No, maybe a red one, but no white ones with the cream interior like you have.
Oh, jeez. That stinks.
I know.
I
I
think
thought they had one in Conshohocken, and he said that was sold when it came in. I mean, it was already, somebody had it, so.
Oh, that stinks. That really stinks. I don't think I realized how lucky I was in the time when I got mine. So
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You just picked it right. And who was your salesman again? Steve? Was it Steve? No. Okay. Phil? No. Okay. All right. They're the only ones I know. Okay, then.
yeah. I'll circle back with you on that.
Okay.
Good morning, Trish. Good morning.
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good
Good
to hear
morning.
from you this morning. All right, great. We're just going to jump right in. Let me just go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. We're going to, you probably already got the notification. We're recording today. I totally expect that we're going to be pretty light with a lot of people away on vacation. So we're going to really just focus on one component of our sort of technology driven organization process, right? All around open houses today. And then that way too, we might finish up a little bit early because I'm not sure that my voice can go the extra distance today, but just like we've been talking about, everything that we've been doing up until now is taking a component of our business, of the real estate business, and finding ways to organize it to make life a little bit easier. Because when we fly by the seat of our pants, not only do things get missed or overlooked or opportunities lost, but your overall mindset is affected. So by taking the organization bull by the horns, if you will, our goal is to help minimize that, reduce that, be more process driven, and find easy, often free, or very inexpensive ways that we can be leveraging technology in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to pick up today, we did some marketing basics last week. This week, we're going to talk specifically and all about open houses. If we're a small group, so if anybody has any questions, you just stop me and, jump right in. I am not going to try to keep track of the chat. So just hop off of mute and throw your questions or comments or feedback out there. Okay. So here's the thing. We always start these sessions. I try to put some questions out there so that you're thinking and taking this information in the context that it's meant for. Where are you today with open houses in your business? When you have a new listing, when you have the opportunity to get to an open house, to schedule an open house, if you haven't gotten, I was just talking with Inez this morning who had almost 60 offers on a new listing, never even got to the open house. But open houses are nonetheless a really important component of the home selling process. Do you have a plan in place, any kind of plan at all? Or do you just sort of run with it, let the wind take you, if you will? And how many days in advance do you begin your preparations? If you do have a process, are you thinking about it 1 or 2 days beforehand, a week beforehand? Are you planning a month out? Think about where you are calendar wise. And then the bigger question, which is, I think, probably even more important, as sort of make sure that you have in the background in your mind, is understand that an open house serves so much more than just getting prospective buyers in front of the home that you're selling. It's so much more than just helping the current seller in that current house. You're looking to secure the next client, whether that be the next listing, whether it's a new buyer. You want to make sure that you are also looking at that open house as an interview process for you and your skill set and the way that you run your business. And I know you've heard that in the Tuesday masterminds too. Don't ever underestimate, what's happening when you're engaging with someone, that it's ultimately always an interview process for you and the service you offer. Okay, so these are the things that we're going to talk about today. Certainly having a checklist, right? We need a process, and that checklist is going to look different for everybody, because the things that you like or don't like about running an open house, it's going to vary from person to person. I'm not here today to force a checklist or force a process on you. I'm just trying to introduce you to ways to make your life easier. And in doing so, hopefully you'll find something that meshes well with your style, your approach in conducting an open house. We're going to talk some about advertising, and that's where technology is really going to come into play. We want to make sure we have focus on our sellers, right? That it's not just about how we're preparing, but how we're helping our sellers prepare for what to expect from an open house. Reinforcements, that's really important. In the market that we're in, I encourage very strongly, never do the open house thing by yourself. Okay. Too many balls in the air, too many people coming through the open house. Too many things can get missed, overlooked, or, out of sight, out of mind. So call in, get help. We'll talk about that a little bit. Again, technology, what is your process the day of? Do you know what your plan of attack is the minute you step foot on the ground, getting out of bed that morning? And then the follow-up. Okay. Obviously, follow-up is going back to the idea of, this is your interview process for your next client. Follow-up is absolutely super critical. Okay. So what are the systems that we're going to kind of make mention of today as we go through our training? I'm going to reference several things that are free and accessible to you right now in the moment. That's the EXP Marketing Center. And that's assuming that everybody who's looking at this is an EXP agent, right? So the EXP Marketing Center, KV Core tools. You have KV Core itself, where we're going to take a look at Property Boost, and then also the Open House app. We're going to look at that a little bit. That's a great way to leverage technology in your business. And then I'm going to show you a couple of ways that I might suggest leveraging outside resources with Box, Brownie, and Jotform. Those will both come with a small cost, and we'll talk about that when we get to them and how you might leverage them, what it might look like in your business. Okay. All right. So before you even have your first open house scheduled, here are some of the things that I think that you should be thinking about and focused on, sort of have at the ready, right? So that when you get to that moment where you've got your listing, here it is Wednesday, you've got your listing on the 12th, paperwork is signed and seller says, I want an open house this weekend. And maybe you're in a position to be able to pull that off. You don't want to have to think about what your process is. So don't wait for your first listing to get your ducks in a row. Have a checklist, build a checklist. I'm going to give you some examples. These are examples that I just went out on the internet and picked up in literally 2 or 3 minutes. This one, if any of you ever go to a house and start performing a deep clean yourself, we're going to have a major conversation. But the idea is that you can go out on the internet and find a tool or a resource to help you in just about any area you can think of. You can also even, if you were on our team meeting yesterday with Connection Realtors, then you might also know that ChatGPT is probably pretty handy at coming up with an open house checklist as well. Or you can start with something blank. And I even, this blank one, I'll make available in the Dropbox, so that if you wanted to take this and customize it again to you, your style, the way that you run your business, you could absolutely do that. But the point is that creating a checklist is the beginning of you setting your process. Okay. Make sure that you have signs or open house, if you have open house riders, if you have flags, if you have directional signs, make sure that those things are all ready or available, or where to go to get them. If it's, if there are team resources that you're leveraging, if you're, sharing equipment with another agent, if you have those things yourself or need those things yourself, again, if you can invest in them now, don't wait until you get your first open house, because that's just going to be one more stressful time crunch problem when you're trying to rush to get them in your hands for your open house day. Okay. feedback template. This is something you can very easily have ready to go, and you can go a couple of different directions. You can have a digital version ready, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. One thing that I might recommend, or you can have a printed version ready. If you're going with the digital version, make sure you have a process for pushing that out to people, which I'm going to show you as well. If you're going with a printed version, then make it easy for the people at the open house. Have the feedback forms ready to go on clipboards, have pens available, even pens that clients could potentially take with you if that's a marketing item that you want to invest in. Again, thinking ahead, not waiting till the day of. We mentioned open house flags. Two other things that I want to mention that I think are worthwhile to invest in, and I'm going to show you because of the push towards technology, the days of having to have dozens and dozens of printed flyers and spec sheets available for clients is sort of no longer necessary. And that way you don't have to panic and worry about not having enough, because you're going to be able to leverage technology to direct visitors, open house visitors, to the more detailed property description. We're going to go all over that today. But one of the things that's going to be really helpful to you in doing that is going to be this type of acrylic sign. And I recommend having at least two, even I think 4 in the current space that we're in, having so many people coming through an open house, being able to sort of maybe manage 2 families at a time. One of these brochure holders is going to be used at the beginning of the open house when somebody's coming in to register their attendance. And then I'm going to show you another flyer to use on the feedback side. So again, one for registration and entry, one for feedback and sort of the thank you for coming. And if you want to be able to manage 2 lines of people, then that's a total of 4 that you would need. Very, reasonably priced. You're talking about maybe a $30, $35 investment on Amazon. Okay. The other thing while I'm here that I'll make mention of is, as you plan out your process for your open house, think about whether you're a food and beverage type person. If you feel like day of is a bit stressful for you and you want to keep the balls you're juggling to a minimum, then don't go trying to bring in fresh food and have things catered. And because again, think about you and your style and what works for you. Don't layer on stress. The idea here is to just have a go-to process that, as much as possible, is just going to work itself that day. So maybe you just want to be able to have a candy dish or bottled water. Maybe that's something that you feel like you want to do for visitors. I remember one of the first open houses I ever went to, probably about dating myself 25, 30 years ago. I remember there was a wall. It was like a 2-story wall that was mirrors from floor to ceiling. It was a cathedral room and just mirrors everywhere. And not exactly my husband and my style, but there was a fresh pie, not just cookies, but a pie in the oven. And I just remember, it still sticks with me all these years. Like, I remember thinking, do they think that the smell of the pie is going to make me overlook all those mirrors? So I think those days are gone, especially with where we are in the market today, having so many people come through an open house. I think those touches, probably the stress of them and the energy and effort that it takes to do, like, that fresh baked smell or, cookies on the counter is probably outweighed by the need to focus on other things like managing the crowd, making sure that you're garnishing registration information, making sure that you're getting feedback from people at the conclusion, much more important. But you could do something really simple. And this is just to prove a point, that you could go ahead and buy this cute little French bulldog for $37 on Amazon. And he can travel with you from open house to open house as a perfect candy dish. It's a conversation piece. It can stand next to your feedback brochure holder. So it's going to garnish attention. And it's a great way to make sure that when attention goes to something as silly as the bulldog, that the feedback request isn't forgotten or overlooked. Okay, so you don't have to go crazy with your dollars and with your energy getting these small touches built into your process for holding an open house. I think that's my point overall. The last thing that I would say is don't wait until your first open house to download the open house app with KV Core. That's something that's going to be super helpful to you. It's very functional, goes a long way towards building your credibility and sort of the impressiveness, right? The perception of you having your act together when you run your open house. And we'll talk more about what that looks like in a few minutes. So those are the things you're sort of doing pre-first open house. Now, what happens when you are setting your open house with your client? Well, obviously you need to set your date, right? Come to an agreement and make sure that you are communicating with the sellers, not just on the date, not just so that they understand that they should be, away from the house for several hours that day, but, what should they expect in terms of potential for number of people coming through the home, how you'll manage the open house, how you'll manage that traffic, what they should expect in terms of maybe stress level after the open house, what the process will be for sifting through offers, sifting through feedback, how you'll communicate with them. Will you sit and meet with them at the conclusion of the open house that day or next day? Set the expectation. If there are pets or children, make sure that those things are all addressed ahead of time. Preparation of the home is a really important deal. So you better not be the one doing the deep clean, but if there are things that you really believe will help that seller better promote the home, then advise them of that ahead of time and make sure that they have the ability and the time to react to the information and the recommendations that you're giving them. And then the other really important thing is secure your buddy. And it's up to you in your business, how you choose to run it, what you see as the role of the buddy. For me, first and foremost, it's about security, safety, that you are one person with potentially dozens of people ready to come through the home. You want to make sure that both you and the home are protected and secure at all times. So having another set of eyes, another person helping to monitor the traffic flow is going to be really important. How you manage leads and, compensation and all of those other things is going to be about you and the buddy. If you're working with a brand new agent or, whether it's someone that you're mentoring or maybe someone that is on the team that you're on that's brand new, oftentimes just the experience and the exposure to an open house is what that agent is looking for and craving. If you're dealing with someone who's more experienced, who's giving of their time, then maybe you're talking about sharing leads or compensating them for their time that day. But I strongly encourage not to do an open house alone. And also, once you identify that buddy, have your plan of attack. How many people will you allow into the home at any given time? How will you manage the crowd? Who will handle registration? Who will make sure that feedback is going to be garnished? All of those things. Okay. So now let's get into the technology piece. This is where we're really going to concentrate and look more closely at all those systems that I mentioned in the beginning. First thing, at least a week before, maybe even, further out than that, but I'm going to go on the assumption here that in this market, we aren't scheduling open houses 30 days out. Okay. I typically don't see an open house right now scheduled more than 14 days out. And oftentimes if it's scheduled 2 weeks out, you don't even get to the open house because you do get so many offers, just like as I was mentioning in the case of Inez. But assess your photos and take a look at the quality. You're going to probably be using your top maybe 3 to 5 photos in various digital platforms. So that's through the KV Core mobile app. That's going to be through your property boost, where Facebook ads are going to push out to advertise your open house. When you create your flyers, you will use, your top 3 to 5 favorite photos. So you might be in a position, and I think this is really important, you might be in a position where you can't afford, maybe you're new in the business, maybe your budget is tight, maybe you're in a position right now where a lot of agents are that they don't have a lot in their pipeline to be able to fund more marketing activities. That's okay. You still have options available to you. Be resourceful. So you might not be able to afford a professional photographer to come in for $500 or $600 to take full photos of a property. but you do have access to a platform like Box Brownie. I bring up Box Brownie because I've heard a lot of good feedback on it from the EXP agent community. And this could be a great tool available to you at a significantly smaller cost to just take those top favorite photos and spruce them up, freshen them up, make them feel more alive, more bright, more attractive. And depending on what your space is, what you're looking at, Box Brownie can do something as simple as, and I'm just showing you some examples on the screen because I think these are really good. It could take something as simple as an overcast framed photo and make it look like a bright sunny day. It can take an empty room and stage it and make it look fresh and lived in and warm and welcoming. And you can kind of see too the pricing. So let me just take you back real quick to that before and after. Just changing the lighting and enhancing the imagery of this photo, giving it the sunshine, was about less than $2 to do. Okay. So again, be resourceful. I totally understand. And I hear sometimes that you are around other agents who can spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on campaigns and marketing efforts. Don't be discouraged if your bank account isn't that bank account. There are still things that you can do that get you the same result, that get you a polished result. So take your top favorite 3 to 5 photos that display that property or convey that property in the way that you want it to, and then try out something like Box Brownie. From what I understand, Box Brownie is something that you only pay for the service that you use. You don't have to pay a subscription fee. And so that to me is a very attractive feature. Here's another example where you see a lot of homes now, not only with daylight imagery on the MLS, but also evening imagery, $4. Okay. So again, a lot different from having to spend hundreds of dollars for a professional photographer. I would never discourage you. Yes.
Are you sharing these photos?
Yeah, because I don't
Am
see
I?
them either. Her
Yes.
sister asked that.
Oh,
I
you're
don't see a
kidding.
We
slideshow.
can't see any photos, honey. We just,
Oh, girls. Well, thank you for speaking up. Let me, okay. This is what happens when I'm heavily medicated. Bear with me here. Okay, good. I'm glad you said something. How about now?
Yes,
You see photos?
yes.
now it looks a little better.
Awesome. Okay, so you see, well, let's make sure we're looking. Do you see the photo on the left that looks like kind of like it just rained, and the photo on the right that looks like the sun just came out?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is what I'm talking about. So this was like less than $2 to do. Let me show you another example. I apologize for that. Thank you, ladies. Here's another example, taking a plain room and being able to edit the photo. Somebody didn't show up and actually physically put these pieces of furniture in the home. This is all photoshopped, but it's you not having to find that technology and master that technology. You just pay $4 to get the property spruced up. Same thing if you have a layout. Look at what they can do with a blueprint that looks like somebody pulled out of their 20-year-old records, and now they can take it and make it look alive for less than $35. So depending on what your starting point is, I think what's really important here is when you look at these photos is to realize that $10 or $20 can go a long way when you're operating on a tight budget. Okay. This does take time. So this one is one of my favorites. I'm going to tell you right now, because I was just talking, I don't know, was it Laura? Was I talking to you? And you were desperate to try and get your seller to do some staging because of the color of the bedspread. And, you knew it was going to be an issue for buyers trying to come in and visualize the space as their own. This is a really cool tool. Like for less than $10, they can take a photo of that bedroom and either change up the look of the comforter or just remove the furniture altogether. But again, just tools and resources that are available to you. Again, this takes a couple of days. So not something that you want to wait until the day before. This is going to take forethought. Okay, so make sure that you're thinking ahead. And that's why I say at least a week out, assess your photos and see where you can add some life and some sort of freshness.
And
Okay.
just a note, my photographer charged me over $20 to empty a garage. So that's a good deal if you can do it yourself on Box Brownie.
Yes. And all you can take your garage full of junk and just take that photo and get it uploaded and end up with what looks like a pretty pristine. And the other thing too, let me see if I can find that photo, but I thought it was really cool where they took a garage or a kitchen maybe to see if I can find it that was still under renovation and made it so that you could see what the completed project would look like. Here it is. Let me see if I can. So here's an example. Like on the left, you could kind of see the fireplace, the floors undone, the paint, and look what they did on the right-hand side. Totally different imagery. Okay. Now this $176, I'm not sure that I would go quite to that extent. Certainly, now you're getting back into the realm of, but at the same time, that's not something that a professional photographer could come out and do for you, but it's something for you to think about. Okay. So
But
yeah,
what
know that
about when
that's a
they
tool that
actually-
exists.
But what about when they actually go to the property and see
So you
otherwise?
Yes. So how many times have you looked at a property online, even in your own experience, like in your own sort of real estate shopping experience, and realized that the pictures online are not the same as the real thing? You can very easily, in the way that you write your description or have ChatGPT write your description, you can very easily just incorporate and do before and after. You can even, if you're concerned about that and want to be sort of full disclosure and transparent, include a before and after so they understand this is where you are now, but this is what it could be. And it's going to help the potential buyer envision what it would look like, and include the disclosure in your, not only your agent remarks, but even if you feel like you need to the public, that there are, the home is ready for love. And can you envision, at the end of the day, putting your feet up in front of that fireplace? We hope you do, something to that effect. So there's nothing wrong with leveraging a tool like Box Brownie. And there's certainly, I completely get your request, your concern, Trish. And, but the idea here is that your photos are supposed to drum up appeal and interest and get traffic out to the property. Okay. And then it's your job as an effective agent to be able to talk with those people and help them further define that vision and see themselves living in that home and see the value, see the potential, see the opportunity. Okay. So be sure that you're adding your open house to the MLS so that it gets publicized in all the channels where that MLS listing is feeding. Do that at least 5 days out if you can, if you have the leeway for that. We also want to talk about boosting your open house on KV Core. And that's something I'm going to detour to now so I can show you exactly how to do that. Can everybody see the KV Core screen here? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes.
Perfect. So this is something I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on because we have done some trainings on Core Property Boost, but this is going to kind of be the refresher, right, of how to use it. You have access to Property Boost in your KV Core now. Using Property Boost does come with a cost. Okay, so let's take a look at that. I'm going to pick on, and I'm glad you're hearing this because I already warned you I'm picking on your listing today, 12 Quaker. So I'm going to go in, you go in from Lead Engine and you go to Core Property Boost. Just have to, there we go. Okay. And then once you get to these tiles, you don't want Enterprise. Enterprise is something that's more like subscription and sort of automated. You can go that route. But we're going to talk today just about the standard Property Boost. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And it'll take me right into Property Boost if I'm already logged into my KV Core. Now, what's really cool about boosting a property, you can do this for a variety of purposes. You can do this for a listing. You can do this for an open house. And I'm going to show you now how we do it for an open house. I'm just going to simply go ahead and click on Boost the property. And I'm going to start typing property address. If you have the MLS number, you can add it here, but I'm just going to go ahead and start with the address, which is 12 Quaker Street. This is a property local to us. Move some heads here, and I'm going to go ahead and use the selected listing. Okay, so what's going to happen with Property Boost is it's automatically going to pull in information from the MLS. So you don't have to do all of the data entry. Just to try to move our heads out of the way here. You don't have to do all of the data entry to get this Property Boost in place. It's just going to prompt you to answer a few specific questions, starting with what type of boost do you want to work with? Let's say in this case, we're going to work with an open house. If you have a price reduction, typically we're not really seeing a whole lot of that right now, right? But you can leverage Property Boost for that as well. Or if you want to market, again, trying to pull new clients into your funnel, if you want to boost a sold property, you could do that as well. In this case, I'm going to click on open house. It's going to give you a preview so you can take a look at the ad. You want to make sure that you enter or review the open house information that's here. In this case, there was no open house scheduled on the MLS. So it's just going to pull in some automatic information that you want to double check and edit. You have the ability to turn on and off the imagery and the pricing. So if you don't want the price of the home to appear, you can toggle it off or you can toggle it on. Okay, you see the difference in your ad. This is where you would have wanted to go through and perfect at least your lead photo on the MLS in advance, or take your most favorite photo and at least have gone through the process of, whether it's Box Brownie, whether it's a professional photographer, because those handful of top photos are the ones that are going to follow all of these technology components in helping you to market the property. Okay. So you have the ability to send someone to a specific site. In this case, you would be sending them to your own personal website. Okay. And I'm going to show you a little bit too when we get to QR codes, what it looks like from a client standpoint, what the experience is when they are clicking on an ad or clicking on a QR code. In the case of an open house, we're talking about a $45 investment for Property Boost. $45 and the ad will run for 3 days. It does typically take 1, and on a rare occasion, 2 business days to get the boost going. So if you take a look at my slide here, I'm telling you, go at least 5 days out. This is not, again, something that you want to wait to do a day, 2, or even 3 before your scheduled open house. It's something that you want to do at least 5 days in advance to make sure that your ad is getting in front of people in the days leading up to your scheduled open house. Okay. And KV Core won't guarantee, but they suggest that you'll get 8 to 12 new contacts to your database just through the boost. This is not even attending the open house. This is just through the boost. Okay. This is going to push out through Facebook. And if you've ever done any type of Property Boost through KV Core, you know that when somebody clicks on the ad within Facebook and they register to see the details of the open house or the listing, the user typically feels like they've never left Facebook. Okay, so it's a pretty smooth experience from the consumer side of things, which is, I think, what helps to make it more effective than some other platforms, because the user is not being redirected to another site. Okay, so $45, I think, is very worthwhile. And the other thing too is that it's one more tool in your tool belt that you can demonstrate, how you are leveraging technology effectively to help market the listing. The other thing that I really like about Property Boost is you have the ability to change the target area. The boost is going to default to the area in and around Marlton. So it's going to look for Facebook users whose location is centered in the Marlton, New Jersey area. But let's say you're dealing with a property down the shore. Let's say you're dealing with a lakefront property that is known to draw in, maybe I don't know, maybe you're in Center City and you have a lakefront property or a riverfront property that would draw people out of the city, sort of into that retreat weekend living. You might want to change the geography of where your ad is targeting to reach those people who are not immediately in the surrounding area of your list property or your open house property. You can change that. Okay. You can schedule more than one boost so that you can target the area in and around the subject property, and then set up another one to target a different area. So there's a lot of things that you can do with Property Boost. And we're talking about, I think, a pretty reasonable investment at $45. Okay. Another thing, and I'm just mentioning it here because one of the things, and I sort of teased a little bit about it yesterday, that all of our May training, our Wednesday training, we're going to get back to bringing in specialists who understand social media and who can educate you on how you can be effective in the social media space, whether that's you coming up with a content strategy, whether it's understanding, SEO and how people find you on the internet, how they find your website, or how to create, meaningful videos and how to leverage the tools that are available to you, technology tools, to post a 30 or 60-second video that just teases to the public, what's coming in your open house. Okay. The one thing that I will mention that I've sort of discovered along the way is that the music that you select to go with your video is actually very important. You want to identify and understand what music is trending at any given time, because that does play into the number of views and clicks and engagement that you're going to get on the videos that you post for your upcoming open house. Again, you don't need special equipment and you don't need a bachelor's degree in social media marketing to be able to put together a 30 to 60-second video that just sort of teases what's to come with your open house or your listing. Okay. It's the idea of doing it and starting somewhere and putting yourself out there. The other two things that you want to do and leverage technology for are creating an open house flyer and a feedback flyer. These are the two things that obviously you can't do completely ahead of time because you need to know the property that you're working with on the open house side, on the open house flyer side. But if you have your feedback template ready to go, it's going to make this part of the process in the days leading up to the open house much smoother. So I want to show you what I mean by those two things, the open house flyer and the feedback flyer. I'm going to head over to the marketing center. And I just want to show you where I went. Sign me out. So I'm just going to sign back in real quick. There's a lot of resources available to you in the marketing center for open houses. You will have access to social media templates. And if you just go into intentions and click on open house, it's going to take you directly to all these materials. So you have the ability to create flyers, even warning signs, welcome signs. If you aren't comfortable or intimidated by the technology, I encourage you to push through and figure out the technology, but you can find a checklist here, a buyer checklist, which I think is good. You can find a sign-in list, sign-in sheet here. So you're not creating something from scratch. But what I encourage you to do, what I am trying to show you how to leverage technology effectively, I went in and chose flyers. And under flyers, let's see, I think for my example, I think I chose this one, the Suave logo open house flyer. There might be, I think there was even another one too. Here we go. So when I went into products and flyers, there are even a couple of more options that you can choose from. I'm not sure why they're not in both open house categories, but I actually work with this Nova open house flyer, and I'm going to show you a PDF of what it looks like. This is a front and back flyer, but what I actually did is I took this flyer and I'm not using it as a front and back printed flyer. I'm going to use, the front side as my open house welcome and register flyer, and I'm going to use the back side as my thank you for coming, please provide feedback flyer. Okay, so I'm going to show you the end result. The marketing center, I think, makes life really, really easy. All you have to do is identify your MLS number, and it's going to pull most of the information right into this flyer for you. So for example, now the one thing it didn't do, and I think it's a Bright issue because of my MLS is Bright MLS. I'm pulling the same property, 12 Quaker. We were just looking at a minute ago on the boost. So I had to upload, I had to sort of pirate, and I knew Inez would be okay with it. I had to pirate her photos from the MLS to be able to pull them into this flyer. But sometimes if there are MLS restrictions, the flyer, or excuse me, the photos can pull into, and you can pick and choose from that photo slide, from that deck, what photos you want where. But when it comes to the verbiage, when it comes to the sort of bullet points here on the first page, I didn't change any of those things. All I did was I modified the photos because I had to add them. I added the name of the development because that did not pull in automatically. I just went ahead and, pretended that my open house was scheduled for today. And then one of the things that I did on the first page is I made sure to take one of my photo slots on the bottom, and I used a QR code. This QR code is property specific, and I'm going to show you where you can go to get that at no cost right now. Okay. If you'd like, I encourage you, if you could get I'm not sure. I would love to know if this works. If anybody's able to scan, this is the QR code that I'm talking about right now on the left-hand side. If you can scan that and see if it takes you to the actual property listing. I just don't know if it ever works through Zoom. I know that the link works because I tested it out myself. But a lot of people don't realize, because it's a relatively new feature that hasn't gotten a whole lot of press, if you will, that you can actually go into your KV Core account, go to Web and IDX, and then you want to go to this section here, Website Embeds. We've known for a long time that every agent, when you get your KV Core account, you get a QR code automatically. That's for your personal website. So if I took this huge QR code here right now, this would be directing traffic to my website. What I want for my flyer, though, somebody have a question?
No, I'm gonna say I scanned it. It works. It brings me to your website.
Oh, fantastic. It brings me to the website?
Yeah, it brought me to the listing.
To the listing. Okay,
Yes.
terrific.
Yes.
So if in this case, we want to make sure that traffic is going to the full listing so they can see the full photo deck, they can see the full description of the property. So here on the right-hand side, to get the listing QR code, again, if you have the MLS number, you can enter it here, or you can just start with property address, 12 Quaker, okay? As soon as I select the property that fast, I have a QR code available to me. You can just download and save this image. And then that's where I went back and uploaded this image as if I were uploading a photo right onto the flyer. Okay. So what I can do here is encourage people, just take this one brochure, put it in my brochure holder, and not have to worry about having dozens and dozens of printed flyers available for clients coming through. Here's the other thing. Maybe you have a color printer at home, and then there's a color printer at the office. You don't want to waste all your ink at home printing 100 copies of the flyer, but you can print one copy at home and then not have to worry about making a trip to the office before your open house. Okay. So now here's the teaser. And then they go ahead and click on that QR code to get to your full open house, or excuse me, your full listing, detailed information. And it's going to all be branded to you, specific to you with your name. So what's I think good about that is if you are the agent hosting the open house, but this is not your listing, the QR code should still on the sort of the outside frame should still brand itself to you as the agent, as the host of that QR code, if you will. So there, if you are a list agent who maybe works with several buyers agents who manage open houses, then they might be attracted by the idea that they can market themselves through something as simple as a QR code. Okay, so that's the one flyer that we're talking about. And then the second flyer that we're talking about putting on display is the one on the right-hand side. This is where we want to garnish feedback in a way that, again, demonstrates that we leverage technology, that we're not fumbling through a lot of paper, and that helps us not only look more credible to the seller, when we're going through the open house experience with them after, but it's again also going to add to the overall impression that we give to our next potential client. Okay, so what I did here, and you can try this code too, is I leverage, oftentimes, if you're on my team, then you know I like JotForm. JotForm is a pretty inexpensive platform that I can use to create forms for a variety of purposes, whether it's to RSVP to an event, whether it's to solicit information. I've created QR codes and even incorporated them into an app for agents who are using transaction coordinators. There's just so many uses for JotForm. So what I did here is I'm going to show you real quick. I went into JotForm and created an open house feedback form. I started from a template, so I didn't start completely from scratch. I just modified it to some things that I liked about it and changed some things that I didn't. I asked specific questions about where someone learned about an open house, asked for ratings on different categories. Excuse me. And then not only did I ask for information about the house itself, but I wanted feedback on the overall open house experience. Okay. Excuse me, ladies. Are we still on the JotForm? Can you see the JotForm? Thank you. Okay. So what's really cool about JotForm is that when you're ready to, once you have the build the way that you want it, you can set it up so that you can tell JotForm where you want your responses to go. So sometimes you might want to use, your Gmail. Another time you might want to use a different email. You can set all that up as sort of unique parameters with every new form that you create. But at the conclusion of your build, of your form build, you can take a link away from your JotForm and put that link into an email, or you can put that into, I think email is probably the most sort of obvious way that you would use a link. You could put that into your email signature. The other thing that you can do is you can generate a QR code. And that's what I did here. So I took that QR code and I embedded it here where I'm asking for feedback. Now, I'll tell you that I did this pretty quickly. So if I were going to go back and I think spend more time on it and sort of perfect it, I would make sure to do more to identify this second flyer, this second page as sort of, we need your feedback. Before you go, scan this QR code. So now we're looking at the QR code on the right. And again, feel free to scan it and feel free to even go through the 20 seconds of filling out the form. I have no problem receiving, everybody's dummy response, but understand, if you were the consumer, how simple this request would be, right? The form comes right up on your phone, go right through, enter your information, 30 or 60 seconds, hit submit, and you're done. And now you've got valuable feedback that you're going to collect and share with your seller. And again, the potential buyer is impressed by, the steps that you've taken to leverage technology. And especially too, with a COVID mindset, sort of being paperless denotes more than one thing. You've given consideration to several factors, not only to being efficient, but also maybe to being cleaner, and less sort of like fingerprints everywhere, kind of. I don't know the business way to say that, but I think you know what I'm getting at. So that's the idea of having two displays: your open house, your welcome, and then your feedback. Okay. Having those set up. And again, I encourage you with your feedback, think about something, whether it's a candy dish, something like the Bulldog. So, so having bottled water at the beginning, maybe having a candy dish at the end as a way of saying thank you, can be very small, inexpensive, but effective ways to round out the overall open house experience. Okay. All right. The other thing that I want to talk about is leading into your go day, and we'll sort of circle back on that in a second, is as you get close, whether it's the day before or that morning, don't wait again to launch the app for the first time when you have your first open house. Once you've gotten to play around with the app a little bit, you can quickly and easily set up Core Open House in, less than 10 minutes. Okay. And that's what I want to show you a little bit. I have some slide shots, like some screenshots of what it looks like when you set it up. Everything that we've done in KV Core so far today, so Property Boost, showing you where to go to get your website QR code, where to go to get your listing QR code, that's all been within our KV Core login. But when it comes to Core Open House, you have to go and download a separate app for that. You'll find it on the App Store. There's no cost to it, but it is something separate that you'll have to download. To best leverage the Open House app, you need to be prepared with some sort of device or mechanism at your open house for people to be able to register. So whether you have a tablet or a laptop, you'll want to have that set up for people to register on. The one thing I wish they did, which to my knowledge, based on the last time I checked, which is probably about 60 days ago, the Open House app does not have QR code capability. I think that would be sort of the home run. If somebody could scan the QR code and register from their own device instead of having to use your device, to me, that sort of rounds out the technology picture. So you do have to have something set up right now, like a tablet, for example. But here's what it's going to look like. When you go in and create a new open house, every time that you create a new one and set it up, you'll be prompted to set certain parameters. So things that might work for one open house might not work for another. No problem. You can set those parameters each time. You'll start by entering your MLS number or your property address. Okay. This is one that I set up a couple of months ago. So unfortunately, this is not 12 Quaker, but once you confirm the listing, this is what it'll look like here. If you can see this screenshot, it will require name and email address. You have the ability to decide whether you want to prompt for phone number, and then even whether you want it to be required. That's totally up to you. I encourage, if you are somebody who sees the value of data management, client management, and automation with your database, then I absolutely say require the phone number. Okay. This also gives you the ability to ask if somebody's working with an agent. You can toggle that question on and off, and you can toggle on and off where did they learn about the open house. In my case, if I'm asking that on the feedback form, I don't need to ask it here too, right? I'm only going to ask it in one spot. Then you can select the image that you're going to display. Again, if you've been able to sort of heavily invest in 2, 3, 4 gorgeous photos, choose one of those premier photos as your image for your open house. You have the choice of whether you want certain other features of the home visible or not visible. And then essentially you're going to get to the point at the very end where you're going to set a pin. The value of setting a pin that only you know, and don't forget the pin, it's something that you won't forget. The value of that is that when somebody's registering, when somebody's standing there on your tablet at your open house, nobody can manipulate and go back to see your database, your client list, who registered, in front of you and what their contact information is. They can only, in the moment, register their own information, and then they're going to receive this thank you. And then it's going to go to the next prompt for the next person to sign in. If anybody were to try and maneuver around the app and you weren't there monitoring it, then they would automatically be prompted to enter a PIN, which they would not have. Okay. What's great about this app is that when somebody registers their attendance, not only do you now have an attendance sheet that documents who's been in the home, but these names and registrations are going to funnel directly into your KV Core account. Okay. They'll come in hashtagged for open house, and you can set up your KV Core to automatically put them on a campaign. so that they'll receive a thank you for attending email. And then you can even go take it, steps further and customize what those messages will look like in the hours or days following that open house visit. Okay, so there's so much that you can do on the back end, again, to round out the experience. So you want to have this all set up so that day of, here we are, we're talking time to go. You aren't running frantic. You've done everything that you needed to do to market that property, to leverage technology, to minimize the amount of paper, right, that you have to either print or drag with you to the open house. You've been in constant communication with the seller, and you know that you feel like they're on the same page and they understand what the expectation is for the before, during, and after. Don't forget those pieces, the during and after the open house. And then also you've confirmed with your buddy, that you are ready to go and what the game plan is, when you'll arrive, where you'll meet up, who will do what, how duties will be divided, etc. Do not wait until you're standing there at 12:30 for a 1 o'clock open house to think these things through. Again, we're trying to get away from the chaos, not add to it. The day of, you want to make sure that you have your signage ready to go, your business cards, make sure you always have plenty of them. For those of you who do digital business cards, remember that not everybody's on that platform. So I do still encourage you to have at least, a healthy stack accessible in your car at all times. Think about your food and beverage choices. Doesn't need to be a smorgasbord. Candy dish and a case of water can be just as effective. If you have a higher priced listing, or you're trying to maybe break into some sort of more of a luxury price point, then maybe you do some additional things. Or maybe your candy dish is gold and the candy in it is gold wrapped. But again, I try to be encouraging of people not having to break the bank to get the same result, to get the perception and sort of the appreciation of detail that you're looking for in connecting with clients. Okay. Balloons, it's personal. Some people love them, some people don't. I personally think that balloons evoke a sense of playfulness, sort of like childlike mindset. So whether it's something that appeals to you or not, up to you. And then, that morning you should be done with your registration and your feedback displays. So you should be, ready to go, nothing to do there. So the idea is that we're trying to minimize what has to happen that day so that you can focus entirely on the open house experience and what the visitors to that open house are going to see from the moment they pull up to the house, through their time going through the house to the conclusion, that you've got good technology in place to gather information so that you can have intelligent conversations with the seller, number one, and follow up and look for that next potential list client or buy client as well. The other thing that I'll make mention of too, which I think doesn't really get a whole lot of press, you definitely want another agent as a buddy when you're talking about agent-related activities. But that's not the only way to pull in a buddy. Maybe if you feel like you could manage crowd and the traffic coming through, but maybe your greatest concern is just more safety. You just don't want to be alone. You don't always have to bring in another agent. Think about bringing in another professional. Maybe it's a loan officer who can sit and work with people and give pre-approvals on the spot. Again, that's impressive. Maybe you have a home that is so in need of some TLC. So maybe you partner with a home interior, like a decorator who can come in, and because that decorator is looking for business, that loan officer is looking for business the same way that you are. So you may not always get it the first person that you call, but you will find people who will give of their time for free in this environment, in this market, in an effort to get in front of people and potentially drum up new clients. So be creative, think outside the box. There are tons of things that you can do that enhance the overall experience. It doesn't have to be spending $500 at a food truck, though I think that's a super cool idea too. I'm just always trying to be mindful of the budget constraints that many people have, because you're your own boss in this business. And, not all of us have endless ATMs. Okay. So these are some of the things that I just wanted to sort of drive home today. I hope that whether you're looking at KV Core, if you've never seen Box Brownie before, I would love for you to try that out and give me some feedback on it. It's, I think, a really worthwhile investment if you're talking about only having to spend $10 or $20. And I think there's even in some places, you might be able to find a coupon code to be able to get like your first $20 of services free. So go for it, give it a try. Jotform, if you're interested in learning more about that, I can help you there as well. So I hope that you'll take away some of these technology suggestions and maybe implement them. What's most important is that I think that you should recognize after this hour how beneficial it would be to have a game plan, to have a go-to checklist, so that so much of this is not you forgetting to do it. It's just getting it done and feeling like you can truly focus on client relationships come those 3 hours when you have people in front of you. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments or feedback or experience, something that you like or don't like, something that you do or don't do with your open houses that you want to share? And check the chat too. Awesome,
Hi,
Michelle.
Deanna.
Hi, Lynette. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I know you said some people like balloons and some don't. I
Yes.
find that balloons help the buyers find the property because the address, whether it's on the mailbox or in front of the house, is not always visible. So I think that eliminates people other than them seeing the long line.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? Is that a lot of times people can't, if you have that much traffic to your open house, a lot of times people can't park right in front of the home. So I think the balloons do serve a lot of purpose. But sometimes in some towns, there might be restriction on that or limitation on that. But there are other things that you can do. So just understand the town that you're going into. Make sure you know if there are restrictions on balloons, if there are restrictions on directional signs or placement of signs. A lot of places, if you try to put anything out before the day of your event, don't be surprised when you drive around that morning and your signs are gone. So those are things that you kind of want to anticipate. Some things you do have to wait until the last minute, like balloons or signs, but have them at the ready. I do like balloons. I agree with you, Lynette. I do think they serve a lot of purpose. I like the idea of diffusers, Sarah, especially if you're in a house where there might be pets. Just trying to remember that you want to do as much as you can to appeal to a broad range of people. So if somebody steps into a home that might smell a little bit like pets or maybe certain spices, for example, might smell strongly from, maybe you have a chef in the house who cooks a lot with garlic and you're trying to diffuse, some of those aromas. I love the idea of scent diffusers. Open houses, that's great. Good luck this weekend, Michelle. And let's see, pinwheels or balloons. Oh, I like that too with the balloon sticks. They are a pain. And yes, Rochelle, they do pop very often. So that's the other thing too, is that if you're going to invest in a few balloons, you might even want to go the Mylar route, because I think at the end of the day, they hold up a little bit better. They travel a little bit better if you have to get them from the party store or the dollar store to the house. So some things to think about. So hopefully, again, you come up with something new or different that you can implement in your next open house. And if not, if you don't have one coming up, get ready, be prepared. There are small things that you can do now to make life a whole heck of a lot easier later. And let me know how you make out. Again, anything that I can do to help with Jotform, holler. And if you have experience on Box Brownie, let me know. I would love to get some feedback there. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate your time today. We'll make this available on record if you need to go back and grab anything, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much. It was good to see you all today.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too. Feel
Thank you,
better.
Sarah. Thank you so much. Yes, nothing a cough drop can't handle. Have a good one, everybody.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for Quaker Inez.